Is your spouse's behavior making it impossible for you to continue living together? Here's how unreasonable behavior can be a grounds for divorce in Singapore. Unreasonable behavior is one of the most commonly cited reasons for divorce. It means that the plaintiff, you, must prove that your spouse's actions make it unreasonable to stay married. This covers a very wide range of behaviors, including the following. Number 1. Physical or emotional abuse. Whether it's domestic violence or ongoing verbal insult, these actions can make living together intolerable. Number 2. Financial irresponsibility. If your spouse has accumulated incredibly huge debts, gambled away family assets, or caused significant financial strain, this could count. Number 3. Addictions and neglect. Behaviors such as excessive smoking, gambling, drug addictions, or a neglecting family due to other bad habits can also be considered unreasonable. Number 4. Personality and mental health disorders. Conditions such as untreated bipolar disorder or narcissism leading to emotional detachment or instability can sometimes also disrupt daily life to the point of divorce. Unreasonable behavior covers a very broad spectrum, making it a flexible but powerful ground for proving that your marriage has irretrievably broken down. Think irreconcilable differences are enough to file for divorce in Singapore? Think again. Here's what the law really says about ending your marriage in Singapore. In Singapore, divorce isn't granted based on irreconcilable differences or incompatibility of temperament, as it might be in other countries. Instead, there's only one legal ground, which is the irretrievable breakdown of the marriage. To prove this, the plaintiff must provide evidence under specific categories such as adultery, unreasonable behavior, or long-term separation. Unreasonable behavior is one of the most common, but it's not about one major incident. Courts look at whether the plaintiff finds it intolerable to live with their spouse and whether it's reasonable for them to continue living together. This could be due to cumulative issues such as emotional neglect, financial mismanagement, or passive-aggressive behavior. Even repeated minor actions over time can add up to an unbearable living situation. So what's the key takeaway? Divorce in Singapore requires proof that living with your spouse is no longer reasonable. And sometimes it's the build-up of seemingly small actions that make it impossible to stay. Think returning to your spouse after intolerable behavior means you've waived your right to divorce? Let's clear up some misconceptions about what unreasonable behavior in Singapore divorce law really means. Many believe that continuing to live with a spouse after their unreasonable behavior invalidates grounds for divorce. This is not true. The courts have made it clear that attempting reconciliation is encouraged, and giving your marriage another try does not mean you've automatically waived your right to divorce. If the behavior remains intolerable, you can still pursue a divorce later. Another misconception is relating to financial difficulty. Poor financial standing alone is not a grounds for divorce. However, financial irresponsibility, such as gambling away the family's money and assets, can be considered unreasonable behavior if it severely impacts the marriage. It's important to know that divorce in Singapore doesn't assign guilt or fault. The focus is really not on proving misconduct, but on whether one spouse's behavior makes it unreasonable to continue living together. So what's the key takeaway? You can still file for divorce after trying to reconcile, and financial difficulties alone are not sufficient grounds. The key question for you is whether your spouse's behavior makes it impossible to live together reasonably. Has your spouse abandoned you and you're unsure if it qualifies as desertion for divorce? Here's what you need to know about proving desertion in Singapore. Desertion occurs when one spouse leaves the other for at least 2 years without consent or a valid reason. To file for divorce based on desertion, you'll need to prove these 4 key elements. Number 1, no consent. You did not agree to the separation. If the separation was mutual, it doesn't count as desertion. Number 2, intention to desert. The spouse who left must have intended to desert you. For example, if a mental illness played a role in their departure, the deserting spouse may not have had the capacity to form this intention. Number 3, no reasonable cause. There was no valid reason for them to leave, meaning they just left without a justifiable cause and didn't plan to return. Number 4, the intention to end the marriage. Their actions must indicate that they intended to permanently end the marriage, even if they didn't directly communicate. If these conditions are met, desertion can be a valid and powerful ground for divorce in Singapore. Did you know that living apart for 4 years can be grounds for divorce in Singapore? Here's what you need to know about using separation to end your marriage. To file for divorce based on separation, you must prove that you and your spouse have lived apart for at least 4 continuous years. If your spouse consents to the divorce, the separation period can be shortened to 3 years. Here's what the court will look for. Number 1, the date of separation. You'll need to specify the exact start date and provide supporting documentation. Number 2, reasons for separation. While mutual agreement isn't necessary, the reasons for living apart should be clearly explained. Number 3, residential addresses. You'll need to provide details of where both of you and your spouse lived during the separation. Number 4, living separately but under one roof. If you stayed in the same house, you'll need to show how you maintained separate lives. Number 5, temporary reconciliation. Brief attempts to reconcile don't break the separation, but time spent together won't count towards the total separation period. Separation doesn't need to be mutual. One spouse can decide to live apart, and this can still qualify as grounds for divorce if the facts support the intent to end the marriage. There's been a big change to divorce in Singapore in 2024. Here's how couples can now end their marriage without blame or conflict. Starting in 2024, couples can file for divorce through something called mutual agreement, acknowledging that their marriage has irretrievably broken down. This fault-free process offers several key benefits. Number 1, no-fault divorce. No one is blamed, making it a more amicable approach. Number 2, less conflict. By working together and avoiding an adversarial process, couples can settle matters more calmly. Number 3, a faster process. A mutual agreement can finalize the divorce in about 6 months, similar to the simplified uncontested track. Number 4, lower legal costs. Since it's quicker and less contentious, legal fees are also supposed to be significantly reduced. So what exactly is required? The agreement must be in writing and include the following things: the reasons for the breakdown, steps taken to reconcile, as well as post-divorce plans for finances and childcare. This new method makes the divorce process smoother, faster, and less costly, providing a more peaceful way to end marriage. Thinking of getting a divorce through mutual agreement in 2024? Here's what the court will consider before granting your divorce. When couples file for divorce by mutual agreement, the court assesses several factors to ensure fairness. Number 1, possibility of reconciliation. If the court sees a chance for reconciliation, it may delay the divorce and encourage mediation or counseling to help the couple resolve their issues. Number 2, voluntary agreement. The court ensures both parties are acting freely without coercion. This is crucial if neither spouse has legal representation. If there's any sign that one party doesn't fully understand the agreement or is being pressured, the court may not grant the divorce. Number 3, understanding the terms. The court checks whether both spouses fully understand the agreement, especially regarding post-divorce arrangements. If the terms are unclear or incomplete, mediation might be required to resolve any differences. A mutual agreement divorce may not proceed if one spouse doesn't believe the marriage has ended, or if there's a disagreement on ancillary matters such as child custody or financial arrangements, or if one spouse prefers filing based on another grounds for divorce, such as adultery or unreasonable behavior. The court's role is to ensure that the divorce process remains just and protects both parties, especially in complex cases.